with that, I wanted to introduce one of our sponsors today. Eric Peacock leads the MyVitiligo team and a unit of the MyHealthTeams. We've been working with Eric for many years. And Eric comes from a really interesting hybrid. It's a purpose-driven organization that is for-profit, that is attempting to create a space for patients, but they're using the best things about for-profit enterprises, combining that with the purpose of nonprofit organizations to create a place where patients can discuss their condition as well as their community. So I'm going to hand over to Eric to give you a little information about MyVitiligoTeam.
Thank you, Dr. Hamzavi, and thank you all for inviting me today. So yeah, I'm Eric Peacock. I am the co-founder of MyVitiligoTeam. And MyVitiligoTeam, as many of you know, is a social network that is for people facing vitiligo, whether you're somebody like me who is diagnosed in the first grade, or you're just diagnosed as an adult, or parents of children with vitiligo. It's a free, password-protected social network. And you can see it here. There's iPhone and Android. It works on the phone as well. So when you log in, what you find is a way to find other people like you. Now, I'm thrilled to say we partnered with the Global Vitiligo Foundation and launched this just over a year ago, right before going into the pandemic. And it's pretty cool to see that we're at about, getting close to 6,000 members already. We're in 13 English-speaking countries. We don't actively prevent you from joining if you're outside one of those countries, but we're still recruiting and letting people know that this is out there. And what's kind of amazing is, if you're somebody like me who went, 4 decades not thinking that there were so many people who had vitiligo and you maybe didn't meet any, here you can come in here and find other people just like you. I had vitiligo, I have a child with it or a spouse with it. The type of vitiligo, if people know that, rather than just call it generalized, we try to describe it so people can self-identify. Treatments, geography, where they live, and all of that. This is terrific for people diagnosed with the condition to find others just like them, but it's also good longer term as we think about the types of research we can do with folks like you to identify the right types of patients and subphenotypes within something like vitiligo. When you look at the actual activity feed and see what people are talking about, I've just jumped into the activity feed here. Like you see a woman in Florida posting on someone else's wall. You see our great friend Valerie in Boston welcoming somebody new who just joined. You see a person in Maine, so they're really kind of quite frequent. And sometimes the conversations are just like this, just welcoming people. Sometimes they're jumping in and talking about specific things they're going through. I just caught this one about a half an hour ago where a person joined and said, my 26-year-old son is having a lot of, emotional and, depression related to just getting diagnosed. What should I do? And what'll happen is over the course of the day, other members will come in and certainly share their experiences. But I was also able to just pop in here and refer to an article where we interviewed Dr. Lisa Schuster, and we regularly interview docs affiliated with the Global Vitiligo Foundation and have an entire resources section. This was the article from her on that topic. But, our resources section has just constantly got things happening, new articles, new webinars. We do the World Vitiligo Foundation. So our goal really is to scale your expertise, the doctor's expertise, so we can get it in front of everybody, whether or not there's a dermatological expert who knows a lot about vitiligo near where you live. So a couple examples of things we've done. When we were working on World Vitiligo Day last year, we can set up live Q&A doctor panels like we did with Dr. Pendia and Grimes and Harris and Desai. We had a follow-on video with Dr. Harris as we were talking about upcoming new therapies to help people understand what is in development and what are clinical trials. And then just this week, we did some pretty interesting work here. So Dr. Huggins and I on Wednesday did a live Q&A. And we promote these ahead of time. And, we had about 55 patients on there, which is pretty good, given we have, say, 6,000 total so far. So that's a good ratio. And we did some live polls. And particularly one of the things we're focusing on here is how people are feeling about the COVID vaccine. So we asked this poll live, again, sample size of only 55 people. 46% of the people had said they've already gotten the vaccine. That's very consistent with what we see across other conditions, that you see behind me, other conditions where we launch social networks like this and other conditions. 16% then said, I will definitely get it. But there's this big chunk of people still, as of this week, 30%, plus or minus with such a small sample size, who are saying, I'm waiting and seeing. While you can't draw too many conclusions on a sample size that size, I think one thing that's informative is to compare this to another condition, another autoimmune condition. So the very next day, we did the same poll in the multiple sclerosis community because we have a social network my company does for people with multiple sclerosis as well. So remember, 46% have already gotten it, 16% will definitely get it, 30% are waiting. Let's look at that now in multiple sclerosis. Here were the results in multiple sclerosis. This was a sample size of about 120 or something like that. So about the same, 47% had already gotten it. We're starting to see that consistently week by week across conditions, which is wonderful. But look at this. This was 16% in vitiligo. It's 36% in MS and only 9% waiting and seeing. So the difference really was this chunk of people who are still waiting and seeing and skeptical about it. The wonderful thing about the affiliation with the Global Vitiligo Foundation is we're then, Dr. Harris and I were able to talk through this, and he was able to explain why he himself got it, why he thinks it's good for vitiligo patients to get it, and educate them. He also then went on to explain all the upcoming treatments, from the JAK inhibitors to what we hope will happen with the IL-15 inhibitors. And then we asked this question of the people who are attending: how likely are you to take the new biologic treatments for vitiligo if they're approved as safe and effective by the FDA, and knowing that you'd have to take them regularly? This is an ongoing thing. You can't take it once and stop. 54% said very likely, 22% said somewhat likely, 14% said I'd wait and see. So that's pretty strong excitement about this, which is nice to see. And when we went on and followed on and talked to them about their interest in clinical trials too, there was a high interest, over north of 60% in clinical trials as well, which is exciting. You got to start with a high number because there's a lot of fall off after that initial interest when they realize what the time commitment is to participate in something like that. We are also going to be hosting with the Global Vitiligo Foundation the next virtual World Vitiligo Day. This last year we had, great attendance. I think it was 300 or 400 people. I'm sure this year is going to be much bigger as we're getting the word out there. So my ask to each of you is to tell your patients about MyVitiligoTeam. It is free. It is password protected. It is monitored. We do not sell or share their personally identifying information with anybody. The research we do is made known to them, and then we share the research back with them, which is a wonderful way to engage patients in research, is to actually give them the results and get their ideas on it.